Friends and Fiction. 4 New York Times bestselling authors, endless stories. Novelists Mary Kay Andrews, Kristin Harmel, Kristy Woodson Harvey, and Patti Callahan Henry are 4 longtime friends with more than 70 published books between them. Together, they host Friends and Fiction, with author interviews and fascinating insider talk about publishing and writing, to highlight and support independent bookstores. They discuss the books they've written, the books they're reading now, and the art of storytelling. If you love books and you're curious about the writing world, you're in the right place.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Friends and Fiction Show. I'm Mary Kay Andrews.
And I'm Ron Block.
And this is Friends and Fiction, 4 New York Times bestselling authors, endless stories to support indie bookstores, authors, and librarians. On this week's show, Ron and I are thrilled to welcome Christina Dodd to discuss her new novel, A Daughter of Fair Verona. The book was just released on June 25th, and we're so excited to speak to Christina about it.
But first, we have a quick reminder to check out all the fun things going on in our Friends and Fiction community at friendsandfiction.com.
There you'll find our show schedule, details on upcoming in-person events, and links to our bookshop.org page, to the Friends and Fiction official book club with Brenda and Lisa, to our merch store, our book subscription box, and our weekly email newsletter sign-up. In other words, if you want to know more about anything Friends and Fiction offers, and we offer a lot, be sure to check out friendsandfiction.com.
That's a mouthful.
Yeah, it is. All right. Now, speaking of great releases we're excited about, let's welcome our friend Christina Dodd.
Christina is a New York Times bestselling author whose suspense, paranormal, mystery, Regency historical, and contemporary romance novels have been translated into 30 languages and sold more than 15 million copies in print.
Praised by Booklist for her brilliantly etched characters, polished writing, and unexpected flashes of sharp humor that are pure Dodd. Although anybody who's ever read Christina does not find her sharp humor unexpected. Christina's books have won the Romance Writers of America Reader Award and Golden Heart Award, landed on numerous Best of the Year lists, and much to her mother's delight, it was once a clue in the LA Times crossword puzzle.
I love that. Christina lives with her family in the Pacific Northwest, where her 700 lavender plants share the yard with her husband's various, quote, big projects, including a treehouse, a zip line, and their very own Stonehenge. I think I need to know more about that.
Yeah, I saw he was building it in real time, I think. We'll have to ask her about that. And Christina was kind of chronicling it on, I think, on her social media. But more importantly, Christina's new novel, A Daughter of Fair Verona, was just released on June 25th, and it offers a humorous historical update on the Romeo and Juliet story, which New York Times bestseller Jane Ann Krentz called the ultimate fan fiction.
That is apt for sure.
Yeah. Sean, can you bring Christina on?
Thank you for having me. I'm so happy to be here.
Oh, welcome. You know, Daughter of Verona has been described as Knives Out meets Bridgerton. Mm-hmm. This book kicks off a frothy, irreverent, witty new series with an irresistible premise. Romeo and Juliet's daughter as a clever, rebellious, fiercely independent, this is a part I love, spinster, aka 20-year-old woman in Fair Verona, told from the delightfully engaging point of view of the captivating Rosie Montague herself. Now, Christina, that is what the book is about. Tell us more. And, you know, one of the things we always ask, what's it really about?
What's it really about? No, that's actually it. I was talking to I was brainstorming with my daughter. This is, I've been writing for a long time. So, of course, the whole family is good at this stuff. And I said, I want an idea that's like based on a very familiar trope and like Pride and Prejudice and zombies. And she said immediately, The Daughter of Romeo and Juliet. And I said, Romeo and Juliet are dead. Yes, And no, they were never alive, actually. It's fiction. And I write fiction. And I sat down and wrote the first book. I just immediately, that came right out of her. And then I thought, nobody's going to read this. Who's going to buy this? I'm just crazy. So I put it away. And then Jane and Kristin, Susan Elizabeth Phillips, and I were emailing back and forth and entertaining each other. And after we were done, Susan Phillips wrote me and she said, you're funny. You could write a rom-com. And I said, yeah, that's a brilliant idea. I've written paranormal romance, historical romance, romantic suspense, and suspense. I should definitely go ahead and go into an entirely different genre. And then I thought about the 4 pages I had, and I emailed her and I said, how do you write a rom-com? And she said something like, number 1, boy and girl meet. Number 2, boy and girl have issues and fall in love. Number 3, boy and girl get married and live happily ever after. And then she said, duh. So, of course, I wrote her right back and said, if it's so easy, why don't you write faster? So she called me a bad name. And I called Jane and Chris and I said, hey, I've got this thing. And she said, send it to Susan and I. And I did. And they both said, you've got to write it. You've got to write it now. And so I sent it to my agent, who said, well, after I picked myself up off the floor, I thought we had something here. A bit of a change for me. And of course, at this point, you're not supposed to be changing genres so many times. But so the book wrote itself, really.
I don't believe any of those rules. I mean, you and I both know those rules are meant to be broken.
Yeah, exactly. But
good. I'm glad
probably
you both know that.
It's not the best thing for your career to be switching back and forth. On the other hand, I love the job. I mean, I still love the job. You see people who wear out on it. And I will never stop writing because I'm always reinventing myself and writing new things. And it's fun. And this is so much fun. This is just so much fun to write.
It really is so much fun.
This one was fun. And I think a fresh perspective now and then is just really good for both you and for the readers too. I want to talk a little bit more about Rosie. Of course, Rosie comes into a reader's head right away by saying, yes, that Romeo and Juliet, the one that Shakespeare wrote about. No, they didn't die in the tomb. Rumors of their deaths were greatly exaggerated. Yeah. You told us where Rosie came from, where the idea came from, but tell us a little bit more about how you brought her to life.
You basically got a young person. We all have the creds to write Rosie because we've all been 19 and 20 years old and sarcastic and funny and look at the world with fresh eyes. And so that was pretty easy to do. You got to figure that she is somebody who lives with rock star parents. They are legends in their own time, romance legends, and they love each other dearly, and they have 7 children. And it's an open household as it was in Italy. And so everybody can hear them making love and fighting and all the things that go along with that. And so she's, really seen the real life of romance. And she's pretty sarcastic about it and is not interested at all in falling in love and has managed to avoid. They've been trying to get her married off since she was 13. Her mother was 13, right? And she's managed to avoid it. She's a matchmaker. She keeps fixing things for the suitors so that they fall in love with somebody else. And of course, that's like what could possibly go wrong, which kind of things go south immediately.
Yes, right away.
Yeah. All right. We know you took an incredible research trip to Verona because there is a gorgeous travelogue on your website.
Yes. It's daughterofmontague.com is where that one is. I actually have 2 websites now.
Ah. Okay, why was it important for you to go and put your feet on the ground in Verona, besides wanting to eat pasta?
Yes, I really. My husband and I had an incredibly large wedding anniversary last year, and we wanted to do something special, and I was like, we've got to go. My poor husband, he has seen Shakespeare movies. He has seen Shakespeare documentaries. He has seen everything you could possibly think. Documentaries about Shakespeare plays, and then I've got books everywhere about, Shakespeare. And the poor guy, I mean, he's been through the whole thing. And so we went to Italy, and it was our first time, and went to Verona and spent 5 days there. And I recommend it for anybody. It's such a small, walkable town. Not town, it's actually a city, but very small. There's so much antiquity there. Still, they have a great Colosseum there, Roman Colosseum. The whole town, it's fascinating. There's balconies everywhere. I took pictures of all the balconies. I kept going, oh, hey, there's another one. And there's the church where Romeo and Juliet were supposedly married in the crypt. And we went there. And it was just, I don't know, it was so much fun. The food was great. The fashion, oh my God, it was wonderful. I'm a salesman for Verona.
How did it impact the crafting of this novel? Did it change anything that you were thinking, or did it just reinforce your ideas?
Yeah, it really did. Because this is not, I was writing Shakespeare's Verona. Now you got to figure Shakespeare never left Britain. So he was just writing a totally fictional town that he plucked out of that he knew was real, but what he was creating was a fictional town. And that was what I did. I did basic research on the streets and stuff, and I got to see where, the town square is and where the Colosseum was and all that. But yeah, for the most part, the town is very much like it was then. And it's all fictional anyway. I'm not even keeping. Okay, the first thing that I Googled when I started writing Daughter of Fair Verona is, when did Romeo and Juliet take place? And Google says it's between the 13th and the 15th century. That's 200 years.
Yeah, that's a big range.
Yes, late medieval to early Renaissance. And so I just kind of went, okay, throw that all out the window. We're not going to worry too much about the actual facts. So
that's what fiction is good for. Okay, speaking of crafting, I think trying to tackle anything Shakespeare related has to be a little bit daunting. It was great to see that Mary Bly, a best-selling author who's also a Shakespearean professor, and she writes under the pen name of Eloisa James, said after reading this novel, and I love this quote, "Shakespeare may roll over, but then he'll sit up and applaud." I love that quote. And it says so much about the book too. Were you intimidated or worried at first about taking on this Herculean task?
I'm not the brightest person in the world. I just pretty much figure that I can do whatever I want to do.
I don't think that's
But that's good. That's the right attitude.
The thing that I appreciated with Mary Eloisa James was that she's the one that sat down and gave me the lecture about Romeo and Juliet. Was written at least 2 other times by 2 other authors. Shakespeare famously stole his plots, and she was like, "Don't even worry about it." Just it was a huge lecture from her.
That's great, though. The encouragement is awesome. Do you think it's important for people to have read Romeo and Juliet or know the core of the story before reading The Fair Daughter of Verona?
This is a fact from Google, so take that for what it's worth. They say that 90% of the world, if you say the balcony scene, knows where it's from. I pretty much think that's true. Everybody knows that balcony scene, and I don't think it's important at all. Everybody knows the core of the story already. It's kind of bred into us. You can't. I don't think you can avoid it if you grow up in the Western world, and probably most of the rest of the world either.
That's true.
Yeah, I had to memorize the Romeo speech for high school drama, and I can still say part of it.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. Yeah, it all popped up for me when I was writing.
This book is so incredibly clever and funny. Readers who aren't steeped in Shakespeare, and I think there's a lot of people who read what was the crib book? The crib.
Oh, that. What were they called? The guides.
The guides. The crib book.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, yeah.
Oh, Cliff's Notes.
Cliff Notes.
That's it.
I think.
Thank you.
Probably they don't even teach it anymore. I don't know. But you've essentially created a comedy from one of the Bard's most popular tragedies. Tell us about the choice to build so much wicked wit and so many laugh out loud scenes into the narrative. And how did you approach weaving in so many familiar phrases and lines with, such a classic?
It wasn't hard at all. You've got that stuff in your brain if you saw the play at all, and even if you didn't. Right. And most of it just came out. A lot of the let me see. I've got all kinds of stuff like this that I was referencing, and that because I wanted to use actual quotes if I could, and I was just going across all the plays. but also I had to make up stuff. One of Rosie's traits is that she doesn't like poetry, and she's not good at poetry. The rest of the family just flings it out there right off the top of their head, and she's lousy at it. And the reason she's like that is because I'm lousy at poetry. So I knew I couldn't do much on my own. I pretty much had to rely on Shakespeare and Shakespearean type quotes. And it's one of the jokes that goes, one of the three jokes in the book was that she's just so bad at what everybody else in her family is good at, which is she's the pragmatic one. Everybody else is all melodrama.
Tell us about the choice to weave in these would-be suitors. Where did they come from?
Well, women were married or they were nuns. You had no choice.
Yeah.
And so, we had to have suitors coming in left and right. And this is a series, so I'm looking at the long tail too. What are the future stories going to be? She's got two sisters that are married off to her former suitors. And then of course, we've got the mean suitor, the guy that's had 3 dead wives already. And she ends up betrothed to him. And not a spoiler necessarily. At their betrothal ball, he ends up with a knife in his heart. And of course, she's a suspect, so she has to figure it out. She's the lady sleuth.
Now, did you mean to write what is essentially a rom-com? I mean, we talked about you decided to write a rom-com, but with a feminist slant?
Oh, of course it had to be feminist. We don't relate. Who in these days is not relating to a feminist book, to a person who has the modern sensibilities? That's something that so many of the reviews have said was the contemporary feel of the book. And of course, I did that deliberately. The language is both Shakespeare and then very modern, because she's a very modern young woman.
That's one of the things that I really like about historical fiction being written now is take these stories where they would have been stereotypical when they were initially written, but now they're updated to have more of a modern twist to it and see women in the actual light that they were written in. I think, was it James by Percival Everett is another example of that, of bringing the character from Huckleberry Finn into the forefront again, retelling their stories and getting a new view of it. So you did that really, really well.
Thank you.
We've talked a little bit about Rosie's creation and story, but I'd love to know a little bit more about how Romeo and Juliet, when they didn't die, how you fleshed out their characters and what their life was going to be like in your story and showed up on the pages that you wrote.
I really had 2 choices. I could either say, okay, these people got married when they were 13 and 16 years old and they're miserable. Or I could say these people got married when they were 13 and 16 years old, and they actually managed to maintain a love story. And that was the way. I didn't want to betray the belief in the romance, and so that was the way I went. They do love each other. The thing about Rosie is she's very sarcastic about the whole thing, but then at one point she sees her parents together and she says, I'm very cynical about this romantic thing. And she says, and then I see them together and I realize that true love does exist, and they have it. And so it was they were a lovely contrast, but also they're Romeo and Juliet. And, they're smart people, and Romeo's really good with the sword still. He's a famous swordsman, and Juliet's the mother of a lot of children, and it's fun.
It is fun. And I enjoyed reading them and saying it was great of you to imagine them having a family and having a life beyond what we knew. But you've also done a marvelous job of bringing a lot of other characters into the story. Prince, Portia, Lysander, the others, the Duke. How did they emerge into your story? Were they always there, or did they kind of show up as you were writing?
Oh, no, I'm a planner. I plot the books out pretty well. And I usually, when I'm writing a suspense, which all my books are a suspense of one kind or another, I don't actually know who did it until very close to the end. And when people say, oh, it was obvious from the beginning, I think, I wish it had been obvious to me. In this book, I actually did know where I was going. And it was that was, at first I thought, well, I can't do that. And then I thought, of course you can. And that's been the thing. Very few people have said it's obvious from the beginning on this one.
It wasn't to me.
No, me neither. There was things that I was like, okay, thought it was going to go this way, and then it didn't. It went that way. And there's just a lot of sleuthing, as you said, that went on in the book. And it's great.
Yeah. And I just, the characters, she had to have the suitors, she had to have the family. I'm writing book 3 now, and it's just going to be a cast of thousands because I've got all of the Montagues and all of the Capulets, and I have no idea how long this book's going to be. It's going to be.
Well, we're here for it, no matter what it is. I'll tell you that.
Right.
Christina, sometimes fans assume writers, especially women, are fiercely competitive when it comes to the business. But in the book's acknowledgments, you thank 3 best-selling novelists who I know personally are your longtime pals, especially Jane Ann Krentz, Sepp, as we know her, or Susan Elizabeth Phillips, and Eloisa James. Now, since Friends in Fiction, our show is a product of 4 longtime women novelist friends. Would you talk a little bit about the importance of these literary friendships? And I know yours go back decades, right?
Well, yes, decades, of course. I don't know. Are we competitive? Mary Kay Andrews? I don't think so. I've sided with you. You're very generous with your the way you speak of other books. And, you could be competitive and certainly am. I'm wildly impressed with your success.
Oh, yeah.
Very generous, but that has nothing to do with it, with real life. That's what we are. We're competitive people, or we wouldn't be in this business. But you have to have those friendships. Who else can you talk about plot with? Who else can you call and brainstorm with? Who else can you whine about your reviews with? You have to have those people that understand. I mean, most people, people say, I'd love to be a fly on the wall. And I'm thinking, no, you wouldn't, because you would be so bored. Your eyes would roll back in your head because we just are. It's the same thing every time. How's the plot? How's the book? How's the writing? Nobody else understands.
Right. But you're also boosting each other and problem solving and saying, hey, I mean, I know we are, and I'm imagining you all are too.
Yeah, absolutely. But when there's a plot problem, I call Jane or Susan or whoever and really say, what do I do here? My friends are great brainstormers, and yay for them. And of course, my daughter too.
Yeah. And you've got a tight group of writer friends over on the, in your area of the Northwest, right?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Well, Jane Ann Krentz is here in the North.
Right. I know that.
Yeah. And there's a lot of us. There's Kristin Hanna. There's Megan Chance. We all, Debbie Maycomber. There. When we can, we get together and party.
Yeah, we're always envious when we see those pictures of your Christmas get together.
It's everybody's trying to get a date is always the trick. So
yeah. Definitely.
Okay, you mentioned that this is the first in a series.
Yes.
Did you start out with that intention, or did that evolve over time? That you went, oh, this could be more than one book.
Oh no, I wanted it to be more than one book. I pitched it as more than one book. This book in itself sets. That suspense is over with at the end of the book. That it's all settled. That's finished. But Rosie's story goes on, and that's quite clear at the end of the book. Some people are indignant about it, but actually most people are just fine. I think that romance readers don't like that. They want the book to be done when it's done. I think mystery readers are a little different. They're used to having series, and they really enjoy having that through thread with the characters.
Yeah, I think mystery readers can stand a cliffhanger.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Well, it was
especially in the romance department.
Yeah, it wasn't that much of a cliffhanger. Let's face it.
No, but it was really cool, and it left the door open.
Yeah, absolutely.
Totally left the door open.
Yeah. I always knew it was going to be a series.
And do you think it's going to just be 3, or is it going to go beyond there? Do you think?
I would write this forever. This is such a joy to write, and it makes me laugh. I was, when we were flying to Verona, I was sitting next to my daughter, and I was doing the final read on Daughter of Fair Verona. And she turns around at me and she goes, "Are you laughing at your own book?" I said, "It's funny." What? I don't remember most of it. I just write it and go on.
Yeah. Before we were talking in the green room before the show, And I said, I wonder how many of our listeners and viewers out there remember the past lives of Romeo and Juliet on film. And I was thinking about the scandalous 1968 Romeo and Juliet with, I remembered Olivia Hussey, and I had to look it up. And Leonard Whiting was her Romeo, but there were nude scenes in that movie.
There were. And the actors were very young, so there was actually, it was scandalous. But
years later, they filed a lawsuit against Paramount, I think it was, because they were.
I think it was Zeffirelli. I think the director is who they filed the suit against.
Oh, yeah.
Is that Zeffirelli?
Yeah.
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 But basically, she talks about it in her autobiography, and she said he did actually a very good job with convincing them. But yes, it's some beautiful naked body flashing, that's for sure. The costumes, if you're watching it, are the entire show is done for the Renaissance effects of it, and it's a beautiful film. It's so gorgeous. If you want to see a Romeo and Juliet, that's definitely the one to do. And then we get to the naked part, and it's like, whew. And look at that.
I can remember my our English class. We had a really great teacher, and she was comparing Romeo and Juliet to West Side Story. And I don't know how she got the school board to say it was okay, but we took busloads of kids to go see, West Side Story, and then Romeo and Juliet. We wrote papers about it. And I thought, God, I don't know if you could get away with that these days.
No, you can't.
Absolutely not.
I was recently at ALA, which is the American Library Association, and one of the librarians said, I used to be an English teacher, and now I'm the librarian. And she said, I wouldn't want to teach it now because they wouldn't let me do the things that I used to do with the kids to make it fun for them and make it understandable. And it's like, they've taken the fun out of education, and I think the fun out of teaching.
Wow.
Yeah.
So the book is newly out, but I wonder if you've heard what the reaction's been. Have you heard from any purists of Shakespeare and other fans?
Teachers love this book. I got an email right before I came on about the book, and it was librarian, and she said, I'm sure they heard me laughing wildly in the break room at the library. It's been great. And there's a few people that are complaining, but they don't seem to be upset about the Shakespeare spinoff so much as they are about the young voice of it. And it doesn't fit them, that's absolutely fine. I completely understand that some people are not going to respond to that snarky type of a tone, which is definitely there. And it's first person. Some people don't like that at all.
Yeah. So
sorry.
No, go ahead, Ron.
I was just going to say, in the best of first-person books that I read, I love it when I can get a voice in my head that goes along with the cadence of the times and the things. And that's how through the whole thing, it was just Rosie telling me this story, and it's the voice I kept hearing in my head. So for me, it felt very Shakespearean.
The audiobook with Susie Jackson, and I'm not an audiobook listener, but I have to tell you, the readers are wild about her as the voice of Rosie, and they're so enthralled with it. And I've never seen a reaction to an audiobook like this. I'm thrilled.
Good.
That's great. So here's a question, writer to writer. You've done romance, straight up romance, suspense, romantic suspense, historical fiction. Do you know going in, and now I know you've said from the beginning, you decided, I think I'll write a rom-com. Do you know ahead of time what the book is going to turn out to be, or you just know the story and figure it'll take you there?
No, I do know what the story is going to be. I do know where I'm going. I'm still writing suspense. I have one. I have the edits for the one that comes out next March right now. And so it's kind of interesting to be doing both at the same time, because it's such a different feel.
Right.
But I plot, and I do know where I'm going. When I change genres, it's kind of like flinging myself off a cliff. And there's also that sense of when I change genres, I know what I'm doing because I've done all these other books. And you know what? You never know what you're doing when you change genres. It is a totally Lacey, look at you, you're nodding. Yeah, it's a totally different thing. And I've just, my first suspense, I mean, I groped through that for a year and it ended up being 140,000 words, for the love of God, because it's a great book. I'm very proud of it. Virtue Falls. But at the same time, boy, the learning process, and that was like book 50.
Yeah, I remember when I wrote Savannah Blues, I thought I was writing a straight mystery. And my editor came back and said, this ain't no mystery. And I said, but she solved the mystery. And Carolyn Marino, my lovely editor at the time, said, no one cares who done it. We just want to know if your protagonist ends up with the hot chef. And I was like, oh, okay. And so then I backed into writing women's fiction. I didn't know that's what I was going to do.
Oh, that's fascinating. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
By the way, Carolyn Marino was also my first editor.
Oh, she's lovely.
Yeah.
Yeah, I still see her when I'm down on the coast. She and her husband wintered down in Hilton Head. So, shout out to Carolyn.
Yep, absolutely.
Nice. Okay, Christina, if you'd stick around, we have one more question for you. Okay. But first, we have a few quick reminders to our listeners and viewers out there.
Now, for all of you watching and listening, we encourage you, we urge you, we shame you into rushing out and buying your copy of A Daughter of Verona. The perfect place to do that is in the Friends and Fiction shop on bookshop.org.
Yes.
You'll be getting it at a discount and helping to fund our show, all while supporting our guests and our beloved independent booksellers nationwide.
And we also want to remind you to follow us on Instagram and join our Facebook group, which is nearly 250,000 members strong.
Wow.
When you visit friendsandfiction.com, I know, right? You can stay up to date about everything we have going on, and you can sign up for our weekly email newsletter, which is chock full of bonus content.
All right. Now, here we are back to you, Christina. Would you tell everybody out there how to connect with you? Where can they find you online and on social media and all the things?
I am on Facebook, Christina Dodd. I'm on Instagram, Christina Dodd. I'm on TikTok, Christina Dodd. I have 2 websites now. I have the ChristinaDodd.com website, which includes all of my books, and that's probably the prime destination. But I started a new website for A Daughter of Fair Verona, which is called Daughter of Montague. That's the name of the series. And that's where the extra content will be. I've got bonus content up there. I've got the Verona trip. It's and recipes from Juliet, which is slowly building. And the thing about the recipes is, of course, this is pre-1492. The New World had not been discovered. So you have to know that the recipes don't include the traditional things that we think of as Italian cooking, like tomatoes and corn, polenta, no potatoes, no gnocchi like we normally know it. And so that was interesting romance too, because I love food. So that was great fun.
Yeah, figs and olives.
Yes.
Figs and olives,
yes.
right?
Right.
And I've got to say that Daughter of Montague website is such a rabbit hole puller. It's so, and there's a recipe for fruit and nut bread in there that's featured in the book, and just your travels and everything there is just a real, it's a lot of fun. So anybody wants to go there, it's full of stuff to make you happy.
I've got a research trip coming to Ireland in the fall for my next book. And so I'm totally stealing your idea, Christina.
Oh, go for it. I mean, absolutely.
Yeah, I'm stealing it. Yeah, and I want to put something out there. If you're a teacher and you're teaching middle school or high school English, this would be a great thing to add to your syllabus for your unit on Shakespeare and Romeo and Juliet. I think it really brings the story so alive to contemporary young readers.
Exactly.
Yes.
Susan Elizabeth Phillips said it's it would be a good book for a grandmother and a mother and a daughter to read
Oh,
together.
right.
I think that's the truth right there.
I wonder if I could get my Molly, who's 15, interested in this.
I bet you could.
I bet she would. Yeah.
I bet she would. She's great. It's great. It's such a nice YA thing. It just captures the essence of Shakespeare, but in a really fun and just smarmy way that I love. Like, I love Rosie.
Not smarmy,
Just
snarky.
Snarky, not smarmy. Thank you, Mom.
Well, I don't want any negative connotations to
No,
this
I know.
brilliant.
It
is a brilliant novelist.
Yeah, and the humor is there, of course. And I think kids need to know that fiction is not holy, that you can actually write what you feel is right. And that's one of the lessons here if you're going to get smarmy.
Well, not
Oh,
smart.
great. That's going to be my own version of Holla.
Yeah.
Don't go there.
I'm not going there. Christina, thank you so much for
you for
talking about
having me. I
Rosie
enjoyed
and
it.
Romeo and Juliet. The book is just, like I said, I keep thinking of the word essence, but it's really the essence of Shakespeare, but it's the essence of a young person too, and what they go through. And so there's a lot of like thoughtful things about it too. It's not just a rom-com. There's a lot of things under the surface. So congratulations on the success of this.
Thank you.
And thank you for being with us on the Friends in Fiction Show.
Thank you for having me. I've enjoyed myself thoroughly.
We loved having you. Okay, everybody. Be sure to tune in next week when the Fab Four will be featured on our one live show of the month to welcome our featured author for July, Jamie Brenner, the author of our Friends in Fiction Pick of the Month, A Novel Summer. That show will air live on the Friends in Fiction Facebook page and our YouTube channel on Wednesday, July 17th at 7 p.m. Eastern. It'll be posted to our podcast for your listening pleasure on Friday, July 19th.
Thanks to all of you out there for being with us. We will see you next time. Goodbye.
Goodbye.
Bye-bye.
Thank you for tuning in. You can join us every week on Facebook or YouTube, where our live show airs on Wednesday nights at 7 p.m. Eastern Time. Also, subscribe to our podcast and follow us on Instagram. We're so glad you're here.